the best safety in the Big 12 on today's show. I don't care. I'm going to say it right then and there. And honestly, I think the best duo, probably the best safety duo, you and Ghost, right?
Definitely. Those two statements are very true.
100% true.
100%.
I love it, man. Look, just obviously thank you so much for coming on. I know obviously you are super busy in the off season, but just how have the last couple weeks, couple months gone for you since spring ball really ended?
It's going really good. You know, spring ball was obviously good for us. We got a lot of returners coming back on the team. Everybody knows each other. You know, had a good year last year, but last year was last year. You know, now back to the grind, back to where it started. So it's been pretty good. You know, just working out, the whole team changing our bodies, getting big, strong, fast. You know, it's 110 degrees out here, so it's pretty fun running outside. You know, with each other, cheering each other on. You know, seeing each other work and then throughout the season, you know, seeing us have success as teams and individual success, you know, that's what you put in the work for. So it's been pretty good last couple of weeks.
You mentioned last year. I think one of the things that really struck me about last year's squad was just how quick everybody meshed and gelled, especially with so many moving pieces. It's the exact opposite this summer where there's very few pieces moving in and out. How does that change the dynamic for somebody like you who's lauded as one of the leaders of the group?
I would say it changed. I would say it really didn't change. We were kind of looking at it like the same as last year. You know, like I said, we returned, you know, top 2 returning team in college football. So, you know, just seeing the familiar faces and, you know, seeing what we did last year and then knowing like, hey, like we did that last year, you know, just off of assembling then. So now that we're closer, let's really push each other. Let's really, you know, lock into the small things, you know, and let's see where we can go. You know, we all been here at least 2 years. New guys that just came, but 2-3 years. I've been here 3 years now, so it's like, you know, we've been here for a while, and let's really, you know, turn this thing around.
Obviously, you guys, the expectations this year are raised. We say a lot on this show. Of course, the expectations are really a privilege for you guys. I know we chatted a little bit beforehand just about the difference from like year one to where you're at now, where the program is at. We had the opportunity to talk to Jordan Tyson a couple weeks ago at his youth camp with Sam, and I think that the thing that stuck out to me the most was him being like, yeah, when I was first deciding where I wanted to go, Dilly had this vision. He had an idea of what the Activate the Valley would look like. And he's like, honestly, like it was kind of hard to believe. But then you see where this program's at now, right? Fresh off a Big 12 championship, college football playoff, throwing out first pitch at Diamondbacks game, courtside to Suns, doing all that type of stuff. Was it at all hard for you when you first talked to Dilly to see that vision? And then where are you at now just in terms of like, okay, you know what, like, man, Dilly spoke the truth here. Activate the Valley is a real thing.
For me, I looked at it as a sign because my high school I went to was brand new. It was, you know, it was literally brand new. I was the first class to, you know, graduate all 4 years there. And, you know, we went 30-1, you know, my last 2 years, went to the state championship, lost there, won there. So just building something, you know, beforehand and then coming here, you know, obviously having a little success, going to different programs, the bigger programs, seeing, and then coming here with somebody who's from here who really wants this place to be great. You know, me with my career, how things went, somebody really wanted to prove people wrong and prove, you know, what type of player I am. Me and him we talked for about 2 hours just about everything, just about like how he's from here, what he wanted to look like, what it used to be like. And I could really see it, honestly. So that's why I've always been so vocal. That's why I've always been, you know, on putting myself on the front line. Like, oh, I believe we could do this. I know we could do this, do that if we put in the work. So for me, it honestly, like I said, was a sign. And I really, truly did believe, like, you know, it's just kind of a feeling. I've been on teams, you know, that just assembled, that won championships, and I could kind of feel it, like, building up, you know, and me as myself as a leader, you know, I obviously, you know, come in every day, try to set the standard for everybody, young guys, you know, and just come in the building and work every day, you know, just be around people who really want something, who really are playing for something. So I think from the moment that we talked, I think that I saw it really.
Yeah. Where does that leadership come from? Is it like a natural trait for you? Was there somebody that you maybe learned from when you were growing up, or is it's just always been X?
Yeah, it's literally just always been me. Like, you could literally probably go get a guy that I played Little League football with, and they probably tell you, nah, he always been the same person, you know. He always been the loudest, you know, stuff like that. But I don't know, like, I think it's just, you know, just having that true passion for the game, you know, just playing this since I was a kid at the park. Like, I've always really love the football. So like when it comes to it, I'm all about, and I feel like the great ones are the ones that, bring people with them too, people around them. So yeah, it's just been like that ever since, really.
You mentioned growing up. Obviously, you just had this passion, this love for football. You brought up your high school. Glenn saying the OG of Texas to Tempe. Obviously, the Texas to Tempe just mantra that this program is building. You guys got a lot of Texas guys.
Yeah.
Now you're in the Big 12 playing these Texas schools. I mean, you won your Big 12 championship in the state of Texas. Just what's it like to see all of these players, these kids from Texas find a home here at Arizona State, similar to the way that you have?
It's crazy because honestly, when I was coming on the visit here, I was like Arizona. Like I never even been. I don't
Cactuses and horses.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect at all. I was like, man, but like from the moment I landed here, I was like, man, this like I love this place. So I feel like just me being a Texas kid from Houston, just like I feel like they probably had like the same similar experience. Just coming here, like man, you see the palm trees, the mountains. You see when the sun set, how it's all different colors. Like it's just different. The weather's basically the same every day, all the time throughout the year. So it's just like man, like you have everything you need here to be successful. I feel like so that was really big. I think that's why Texas kids have kind of found a home.
How much have you changed since the first time you saw those cactuses and you saw those mountains? Like, look back at X from 3 years ago and now. What's the biggest difference?
I think just maturity, experiences, and just being here in the state. It's not too far from home, but it's close enough. And just being far away, going to USC, things like that. I think here's where I really like. I think I was in the building stages where the other places I were growing up, but here I really kind of settled in a place, and really, like I said, when we first got here, the program was what it was, things of that nature, and just to be here 3 years and put in the work and see the results is that's really where I feel like the change comes from. So
you brought up obviously asking him what was biggest difference. I felt like you left one out. You're a champion now. You're a Big 12 champion, man. That's obviously something that you and this team last year had so much success, especially on just like the crazy run. I think we talk about it. Feels like once a week. Like there was the point where it's like, okay, you're a 2-loss team. You're gonna have to have like a perfect run to be able to go down, and that's what you guys did, right? You had the Kansas State game. You had the BYU game that you had to beat them twice, pretty much, and then you took it to Arizona and then Iowa State. For you, and we've heard other players like talk a little bit about what moment, what game specifically was like, okay, maybe I feel it. I feel this team trending in that direction. Was there a moment? Was there a game, a practice, a meeting, something for you last season where you're like, okay, we got a real chance to do something here?
I think it was both of the losses, really. Like, we went to Texas Tech. It was the first time on the road. Some people had never been in that environment. It's hostile, it was hot, things of that nature. But, we came back and sat back and was like, man, we really played our worst game ever. Like, things that we usually do, we didn't do. It was uncharacteristic. So, and we lost by 8 points. So we were like, okay, like, let's, really just focus and see what happened. And then, Cincinnati, obviously, that game, we were fighting the whole game, just fighting. It didn't come out our way. But from that point on, we literally had a conversation. I remember like me, Sam, a couple of people having a conversation in the locker room, like, if this is really what we want to do from this moment forward, then we know what we have to do. Like, we knew we couldn't lose any more games. We knew that if we did, that they were going to count Arizona State out like they usually do, and, we just changed it. We just, seen the challenge and accepted it each and every week. Like, man, let's really focus in. Obviously that was the back end of the season, so it's very important. You're going to play football October, November, so that's very important football. So every game from basically like week 6 on, 7 on was like a playoff game for us.
Yeah.
Like we treated it like that. So it was like, man, it's either you come out on that side or, we know that's it, really. So
Over your time through the Parks and high school and now college, you've played with and against a ton of quarterbacks, right? And I want to know, what is it about Sam Leavitt that kind of sets him apart from your average, typical run-of-the-mill quarterback?
Because, Sam's going to be there. He's going to be there with you when it's hot and running. He's going to be there with you when you chilling, like, he's just there, like he's around. Sometimes quarterbacks kind of, might put themselves someplace, or people might put themselves some way, but he's truly like humble, like he's, not different than anybody else. He really still wants to work. He puts in the work each and every day. He comes in, set a standard, for and obviously he's the leader. He has the ball in his hand every play, so it's very important. And he knows he knows what he needs to do, in order to do what he needs to do. So I think just seeing him handle business, how he goes about it every day, coming to building, like he's a true professional at that position. So I think that's really what it is. Just his mindset is what separates him. I play with obviously a lot of guys, a lot of different guys, and I would say that his mindset is similar to mine. So
You bring up your mindset. I'm curious. There again kind of been, whether it be Sam or Jordan, or you go back to Scat last year. I think you're most certainly in that conversation for that type of player that's going to have an impact, and that's already had an impact on Arizona State. And they talk about the goals and kind of what's on your mind. Obviously, this season at Arizona State, we talk about the expectations, but for you, obviously there's so much after this, right? There's hopefully a long career in the NFL. What's on your mind going into 2025? Goals, expectations, things that you want to accomplish, doubters that you want to prove wrong.
yeah, honestly, after last year, I mean, I'm my biggest, hardest critic, whatever you want to call it, but I honestly really feel like I really didn't have a good year. Like I really didn't. Like, it was my first time kind of playing football again, kind of getting my feet wet a couple games, and then and I feel like I started to get in the groove, it's on the back end. So just being in that situation and coming back in this off season, the way I'm working, the way I'm eating, the way I'm doing everything, like preparing myself because I know what I'm capable of. So I mean, I'm really excited because obviously, I see everything out there. Like I feel like last year I was sitting here kind of saying the same things. Like I see what everybody's saying, I see this, see that, but type of guy I am, I always know. Like once I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to do it. So obviously, being an All American is, one thing that's very high on my list. And I feel like, personally, and I feel like after that, everything else will take care of itself. With obviously having a successful season as a team and things of that nature. But that's really all.
High expectations on you individually, high expectations on this defense. Our chat's absolutely loving that you're here. They're all over it. Glenn wants to know, what are your expectations for this defensive unit as a whole?
To finish top 10, to be, a real elite defense, one of those, defenses, obviously 2024 defense, but, to be like, okay, those guys came out in 2025 and like 10 years from now, you're going to be like, that 2025 defense was like crazy. Like they just shut people out. Like it was just crazy. Like, and then, we felt like really that, obviously being in the stadium, the environment, it's super loud in there. So playing defense at home last year, just kind of with guys you just now getting to know and being in those situations, we felt like it was, challenging. But that's really what we're working on, communication, because we feel like if we get lined up and communicate, then we can play with anybody in the country.
100%. I feel like I've been banging on this table all offseason, being like it's going to be a top 15, top 10 defense in the country. And part of that is because you guys obviously returned so many starters from last season, minus Shamari. But you got some guys that have kind of been in this system before that are really going to be thrust into some important spots, right? Mm-hmm. You got a guy like Montana Warren. You got guys like Rodney Bimage that are certainly going to be big pieces this year. How many of these young guys and which ones specifically stood out to you in the spring and then are still making an impact on you in the offseason?
I was obviously Montana because, he's kind of like the little brother. When I got here, he got here. So, just being an older guy in the room, somebody he could look up to. Obviously, Rodney, all the younger guys I feel like are starting to step up. Chris, Tony, just, even the transfers that we got. Everybody, feel like we set the standard, last year. And it's like anybody coming in, it's either this or that's all. It's the standard or above the standard, nobody under, or nobody underneath the standard. So, no, I'm just excited to see, those young guys too, because it's kind of crazy. Like when you're on the field, you kind of locked in the play, and then you see, one of the younger guys make a play, and it's like, it's just pretty cool to see, and then especially they get excited, they talk about it, things like that. But, I explain to them that, y'all don't think of it as, being a young guy. Just think of it, as you trying to get to your goals and do what you have to do to, get to it wherever you want to get.
So we put out a tweet earlier today saying, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you see Xavion Alford? Now, one person said, funny guy with a laughing emoji. It just so happens to be, at 100-yard landlord on social. Are you a comedian? You the funny guy in the locker room?
I would say I'm one. I would say I'm funny. People, they would say I'm funny. But I'm like sneaky funny, you know. I don't just come in cracking jokes.
Sneaky funny,
you know. I don't just come in cracking jokes, but you know, I might make a comment here or there, and it's pretty funny, you know, things like that. So,
who thinks they're funny but isn't on the team?
Whoa.
Let me see.
You can include coaches too.
Who thinks they're funny? To be honest, though. We actually that is the crazy thing about our team, because we have too many people that's funny.
Too many comedians.
Yeah, too many. That's why I feel like, you know, that's why too. When people probably watch our stuff, they like, oh, they probably playing too much. But literally, it's like we had that balance between, you know, being funny and, you know, flipping the switch, being serious. So, and I think that's why we're able to, you know, play how we play, you know, for each other, for the coaches, because it's just natural. It's just genuine. It's just everyday interaction, like normal people. It's not, you know, obviously we have a standard when we're working, but still, it's like we're a family. Like, we're here around each other probably 330 days out of the year. So it's like you gotta at least be cool or like the people you're around, you know. I feel like to get, you don't have to, but to really get, for them to push you, you know, in different levels, stuff like that, they really have to know you. So I feel like that's what makes us.
William in the chat says, you're a comedian for real.
Yeah.
So there you go. Getting the outside validation.
Will's former teammate.
Yeah, Will would definitely know. He would definitely, if anybody, he would definitely know. Shout out Will. Shout out to Will.
A couple other comments here. Future NFL cornerback, star in the making. What do those types of comments mean to you now when you've had such a, you know, a long and you know, up and down football journey with the year that you had to take off and everything?
Those comments to me obviously mean a lot, coming from, you know, the people they're coming from, but those comments are, to me, are the standard for me. You know, it's all, since, like I said, I've been playing this game since I was young, and since I started playing when I was 3.5 years old, I said I was going to be in the NFL. So, you know, I feel like, and the type of guy I'm going to put in whatever work I have to do to get there. No matter how I get there, you know, I feel like that's just me. I'm just going to do it.
Last two responses I want to share. One person just says fashion.
Fashion.
Are you best dressed on the team?
I mean, I think it kind of speaks for itself.
Okay, who's the same question with the funny? Who's the worst dressed on the team?
Worst?
Yep. Ooh. Coaches can be included.
And if that's too harsh, maybe give like a position room.
Maybe, you know, who needs a little work, right? Needs to go to the 100-yard landlord school of makeovers.
You would think O-line is, but they actually get pretty fly. Like, I'll be like, okay,
really?
like before the games or just being out, I'll be like, okay, you know, Max is the guy. He's bigger, but he could dress. Josh,
Yeah.
No, even CJ, you know, a lot of them they dress. But let me see, worse.
You can go on last year's team too if somebody really stands out.
The specialists, yeah.
It came to you right there. It came to you. Kickers, punters, all of
specialists, definitely, yeah. You
That's
know,
tough.
specialists kind of got specialist swag.
Yeah,
It's like,
specialist swag.
You know, yeah.
What's a punter swag, dog?
You know, it's probably like
Turtleneck.
Stop.
Probably like some capris or like cargo khakis.
Like they're going out
Some type of
golfing a little bit.
Yeah, like golfing it all the time.
Yeah.
Like, even when you're not golfing. Yeah.
Last thing, Doug Tamaro says, one of the nicest, most appreciative, and friendliest Sun Devils I've been around across all sports in my 3+ decades. It's been a joy to be around him, and I look forward to the 2025 season. What does Doug Tamaro mean to you in Arizona State football?
Man, Doug. Shout out Doug. Thanks. He's been around here a long time, but ever since I've got here, like, he's just been, you know, awesome. Like, he's been an awesome guy. Obviously working with media and things like that, but you know, Doug, he's just a great person. Like, I feel like we really, like, here at ASU and the state of Arizona, really is just great people. You know, so ever since, you know, we've had our first interaction, it's been nothing but genuine, you know, love, natural. You know, ever since then, and you know, he's probably top one of the best people I met at ASU too so far. So you know. Hey, appreciate you, Doug.
The GOAT, the absolute GOAT. X, but before we get you out of here, Sun Devil fans, Sun Devil Nation is obviously really, really excited for this season. They loved what you accomplished last year. Just what would your message to this Sun Devil fan base be going into what's expected to be your final year of college football, and then into a season where there are high expectations and a lot of people really excited about ASU this year?
For me, you could probably get the hungriest, most underrated, underdog, whatever you want to call it, me channeling all that, obviously like I did last year and, just turning it up a notch, I feel like so. I'm really super excited, I'm really ready to, jump right in it, get to it, because, just the expectations I have for myself, what I know I'm really capable of, obviously with the opportunity that's in front of me, this year with this season and just, my dreams are going to the next level, things of that nature. I'm very comfortable where my feet are, very comfortable with it. Some people might get tense up when they get in these situations, but I feel like I've been waiting on, these little small windows, for, my whole life. So, I'm definitely going to take advantage of the opportunity, and put in all the work I can to be ready when it's time. But I would say pack the house, please. We love it when it's packed. Even travel with us on the road, but definitely gonna be a special season. Definitely.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. X, we appreciate you coming in. If you want to follow X on social, it's really easy. Best nickname on the team, best handle on the team.
Best nickname maybe in sports, to be honest with you.
At 100 Yard Landlord on social.